Hello, my name is Michelle Boucher and I'm a stoma care nurse in Salisbury Hospital, and I'd like to tell you a bit more today about the option of having a colostomy after having a spinal injury. Ta-da! So this shows the digestive system. So when we eat and drink, food is broken down in our stomach, goes all around the small bowel where it's digested, and it turns into poo and comes round your large bowel and out. And for many of you, you may be having manual interventions to then help remove stool from your rectum. When you have a colostomy, this is done, it's an operation. You will have a general anaesthetic and the surgeon will completely cut through part of the last bit of your large bowel or colon. So that is cut apart. This end is stitched closed and stays inside, but has nothing going through it. This other end is brought through a small opening on your tummy. So it is literally the bowel that is brought through this opening, and it's kind of turned inside out and stitched into place. And then going forward, as poo travels around the bowel, it gets to this point and just comes out here passively. You don't have to do anything or stimulate or do anything to make this work. Poo just comes out. And as we have no control over when that happens, you wear a pouch to collect it. And this is where visual aid number 2 comes in. So this is Adam. Don't know whether you can see his name on there. And Adam is wearing a colostomy pouch. And when this is about a third full, you need to change the whole thing and put a new one on. For most people, that will be perhaps once or twice a day that this needs doing. And it may be that you can do this yourself, or you may have to have somebody help you. So to change the pouch, they do stick very securely. So you will have an adhesive remover spray. It helps this pouch come off. You don't have to do anything with this pouch, you don't need to empty it. You would just pop it inside a rubbish bag and that gets thrown away with your household rubbish. You would then, with some warm tap water, clean around there, make sure it's dry, and then you're ready to put a new stoma bag on. They have a backing that peels off and then you stick it in place. This one has a cover on, they do come see-through. And this one has also got a little peephole so that you can see what you're doing as you line it up and put the new pouch on. And that is it. So bowel care becomes literally 2 or 3 minutes, maybe once or twice a day. So this is obviously quite an advantage to having a colostomy. It is much quicker, it's straightforward, and more people will be able to do this themselves because it's in a place that's easily accessible. It can be quite liberating in that you don't have to be waiting around for carers, and lots of people find it easier to do things like go on holiday, go down the pub, whatever, go to work. So those are the advantages of having this done. The disadvantages are that this is an operation, and all operations and anaesthetics have a risk, and you have to think really carefully about the risks versus the potential benefits. So particularly if you have a lot of other health conditions, particularly to do with your heart or your lungs, it might actually be quite risky for you to have any kind of operation, and you really need to think carefully about that. So there's the risk of the operation itself, and then you can have complications of having a stoma. For example, you can get a hernia underneath it. Stomas can prolapse, which is where it sticks out a bit more than it should, or they can retract where it goes in more than it should. So those are the kind of disadvantages or problems that may occur. It's really important to say that you should think very carefully about this, and you should think of it as a permanent option. It's not something you might try for a few months and if you don't like it, have it reversed. They could theoretically put the bits of bowel back together in another operation, but that might be quite tricky. So you should only have this done if actually you're really sure this is what you want to do. And it's also really important to say that this will not change how your bowel functions. So if you suffer from constipation or you get bloating, for example, that will probably still be the case. This isn't going to solve the problems to do with the function of your bowel. What this is doing is making the management of your bowel easier. So we're now going to hear from a few people with spinal injury who've chosen to have a colostomy.
So in December 2022, unfortunately I had an accident which resulted in a level C4 spinal cord injury, which unfortunately affects pretty much everything independent in your life. Main thing is bowels and bladder. So after spending several months on the unit, working with the team, trying to get sort of my bowels back to how they used to be pre-injury, unfortunately for me that didn't work. There were various times that I was constipated, various times that it would end up that I would have to have bowel care on the bed again, which to me I found very invasive. It was quite a horrible part of the journey in rehab, and it was an unwanted intrusion, having to have bowel care every day when bowels over the toilet weren't working. So it took me probably until around July 2023 until I started really seriously considering having a stoma, a colostomy.
Hi, my name's Chris. I'm a stoma bag user. I had elective surgery in Salisbury Spinal unit as an alternative to the other methods of bowel irrigation, and I haven't regretted it. I've been using it for 2.5 years, and whilst it comes with the odd issue, overall it's a very good way of managing your bowels going forward. Plainly, surgery is required to do this, but it's pretty straightforward. It's a well managed and well trodden way of putting a colostomy operation into you.
There were sort of times where I thought, oh, it's quite a severe operation to have, but to me the pros far outweighed the cons, and I just wanted to get back to an independent life, taking back control, and part of that was opting to have the colostomy.
I had my spinal injury in August 1992 following a diving accident in Mallorca. I am a C4 complete quadriplegic, and I am unable to move my limbs from the neck down. Until 2015, my bowel care was carried out using glycerine suppositories. A district nurse or PA carer carried out the task. As the years went by, I began to experience ever-increasing problems with my bowel care. Hemorrhoids, bleeding, pain, dysreflexia, perspiration, and becoming flushed were some of the symptoms. I also had a shallow pressure sore in the gluteal fold area caused by spending too much time on my shower chair whilst waiting for my bowels to open. There were many times when I thought my bowels had finished, only to discover they hadn't, and would subsequently do so when I moved to the shower. This destroyed what little dignity I had left. Due to the pain, discomfort, and other associated problems previously mentioned, this made travelling and visiting people a huge challenge. Having exhausted all alternatives, after 23 years of numerous and unwelcome bowel-related issues, I decided to have a colostomy. The positive results post-op were instant. Gone was a Russian roulette style of bowel care I associate with suppositories. It's infinitely easier to train someone to change a colostomy bag than it is to show them the suppository method. Post-op, the pain and discomfort vanished, particularly the dysreflexia. Perspiration and becoming flushed stopped. Because I wasn't having to spend so much time on my shower chair, within 6 weeks, the long-standing pressure mark that had blighted me and led to many hours and days of bed rest disappeared. there was no more bleeding, and the hemorrhoids became infinitely less troublesome. Travelling and overnight stays are now a doable reality.
Stoma bags are a really good option to help you return back to normal society, if that's the right term. And they are a very good way of onward management. They are liberating rather than the other methods, which tend to be more difficult to manage in my view. If you're in a spinal unit, certainly I would suggest that you engage with the stoma nurses straight away, and when you're feeling confident enough to have that conversation. They are terrific at helping you manage your way forward with something like this, and you certainly should have that as an option to discuss with your consultant and the stoma nurses wherever it is you reside. It's definitely not something that you should dismiss and just revert back to the standard irrigation methods, which tend to be the prevailing way of working.
Being lucky enough, well, lucky or unlucky, lucky enough to still be on the unit, there were sort of occasional slots that would pop up where the stoma team could put you forward to have the surgery, and I was lucky enough to be one of those, to be on the unit and to be able to have it done quite quickly. So opted around July, and then I had the operation in August. So it was quite sort of sore afterwards. I was up the next day though, and I just wanted to sort of crack on and make sure that, yeah, it was all working okay. I have now become very independent. So with the C4 injury, it has affected my hands. So my hands aren't brilliant, but what I have got I can use really well. I can change my own bag, and what that means is when I finally get to go home, it means that I'm not going to have to be waiting around for a district nurse to come in and do my bowel care. So it's not relying on others. It does mean that I'm just going to be able to get up, get on with it, get on and go to work, and take back some of that control of my life. Which is it's a big part of, when something like this happens, is there's a lot of control taken from you. It's made a huge difference. In mornings it takes me not very long to get ready at all. There's no bowel care involved, and even down to so the medication for constipation and everything else, that is in your hands. It's very much you know what's going on with your bag, you know what the output is, and you know what you need to be doing if the output isn't as it should be.
Watching your diet's quite important to make sure that you don't have too much that will overload your stoma bag. So still a little bit of care is around that. Also, engagement with your local stoma nurses when you get back to wherever you live is pretty good, because that helps you manage the changes in your stoma bag or your stoma requirements, because it does change over time.
Probably the cons are you can't control when you have gas, you can't control the volume of the gas, but actually you can have a little bit of a giggle with it, but I'm not looking forward to probably where there's an occasion where it's silence and it happens and there's nothing I can do about it. But up until now, people have been very polite, ignored it as if it hasn't happened. The main con is occasionally you do have a leak, and that can be caused by the adhesive not sticking properly onto your tummy. But generally you get a sort of warning, you can sort of get a slight smell, and then you know that you need to go to the bathroom and sort of address the issue. It's not happened very often, but when it does happen, it's just one of those things really, and you do have to take the rough with the smooth, and actually there's more smooth than there is rough. Definitely the right decision for me.
Personally, I can think of a few negatives. Some people may have preconceived concerns relating to body image and intimacy, But there are plenty of able-bodied people who use the same system without a problem. For me, such dilemmas have not been an issue and are far outweighed by the positives. Others may have apprehensions regarding odour, adhesion and noise. The bag has a filter for odour and releasing excessive wind, and as for adhesion, as long as the bag is changed when required, there isn't a problem. In a nutshell, it was a life-changing operation that I wish I'd known more about when I was first injured. Thankfully, my story has a happy ending, insofar as my dignity has now been fully restored. My ongoing mantra, well, knowledge gives you choice. Many thanks for listening.
If you'd like to know more about this, we have written a booklet that explains a little bit more, and it's specifically written for people with a spinal injury thinking about having a colostomy, and it's available to download from Salisbury District Hospital website.